Welcome to Astra Resource Q&A. We're taking time to discuss construction materials testing and inspection with people in the know. From exploring testing problems and solutions to laboratory best practices and quality management, we're covering topics important to you.
Appreciate you all joining me today. My name is Brian Johnson. We're going to be going over mastering laboratory management. This is going to be a panel discussion, and I will go over the rules next. So I've got 4 panelists today. They're going to talk about different aspects of laboratory management. Even though this is called mastering laboratory management, I want everybody to understand that none of us, none of the panelists, and well, actually, I'm speaking for them right now, but I think they would agree with this. Think that they are the master of laboratory management. We're all just practicing what we do to get better. And so a lot of the things that they're going to be relating to you are going to be probably familiar to you, and you've probably experienced some of these things yourselves. But hopefully together we can come to some understanding and maybe take some of other people's experiences home with us. And then we can all continue to improve together. So they're going to be sharing their experiences, and you are going to be sharing some of your experiences, but also asking questions. And this will be actually very similar to the podcast. We talked about the podcast, and I thought about it earlier if we should just start it like the podcast and then just have it out there. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll happen.
It might happen.
It might happen. Yeah, we have been known to reuse material. You don't get over 150 episodes without reusing some material, but that's okay. All right. So here's our panelists. We've got Zack McKay. He's a laboratory operations manager from Blankenship Asphalt Tech and Training. He is from Richmond. Well, he is in Richmond, Kentucky, by way of Mississauga, Ontario, I believe. Is that right, Zack?
Close, Brant.
All right. Close. Next, we've got Joe Kerstetter. He's from Tennessee DOT. That is in Nashville. He's the laboratory process control team lead. Then we've got Kishore Kotha, principal from ECS in Chantilly, Virginia. And finally, we have Seth Winters, laboratory manager / QMS internal auditor from Terracon in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So these panelists all have different roles and different experience that they can share with you today. And I wanted to ask you guys, well, we'll get into this. So we have different topics of laboratory management that we're going to cover. And each one of the panelists is going to address some of these things. And then the other panelists can chime in, or you can chime in as an attendee or ask some follow-up questions. So Zack is going to talk first about material sample handling and preparation. Take it away, Zack.
All right. Thanks, Brian. So a little quick bit about my background. I've got about 15 years of experience in laboratory testing, working at the Asphalt Institute, and now as laboratory operations manager with the BAT Lab. And over the years, sampling and how we manage those samples is extremely critical. One, to make sure that we have good representation of the material that we're actually testing, because without that foundation of a good representative sample, all your results hinge on getting a representative sample. So we want to make sure that, obviously, when we grab a sample from a stockpile or grab it from the back of the truck, in asphalt, we deal typically with, hot materials. So we're always cognizant about safety as well. But when we're grabbing those samples, we want to make sure that we avoid, any areas of segregation, that we're sampling from a good portion or a good part of the mix or aggregate sample as we're sampling. So that is some of the critical things, when we are trying to get a representative sample. And of course, we're always trying to follow the most current and up-to-date procedures when it comes to that process, whether that's through the ASTM or AASHTO standards, and making sure that our personnel is also adequately trained and prepared for grabbing those samples, and whether it's taking it from the field or taking it from even in our own laboratory process, how we handle those samples is very important, because any influence in those samples can change those test results. Another critical item that we like to adhere to is making sure we have proper chain of custody when we're sampling. Sort of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. Why we're, who's grabbing the sample, what are they grabbing a sample from, what is that material? When, time of day, because as you move through those materials, the materials are going to change from whether you're sampling at the quarry, from ledge to ledge, from stockpile to stockpile, those kinds of things. And then where, are you sampling it from the roadway? Are you sampling it from back of the paver? Or are you sampling at the terminal? Wherever the sampling locations, it's always important to know that good documentation. And then why? Why is your purpose? Is it for forensic analysis? We do a lot of forensic testing where pavements have failed, and we have to understand why we're seeing failures. And so having some of that reasoning behind it, is good way of making sure that the next person to handle that sample is well informed.
Yeah. Now, Zach, do you have any tips? I mean, when you have a lot of samples going on in your lab, how do you keep them organized? Because there might be ones that are, let's say at an asphalt mixture lab, you might have ones that are spread out. You may have ones that are in containers in the oven heating up. You may have ones that are in between. You may have different technicians working on them. How do you keep it all sorted so that things don't get mixed up?
Yeah, so we have obviously our storage areas where we keep all of our bulk aggregates, and as well as a couple of storage units offsite. But having a material like that that takes up a lot of volume and space, we have to maintain that. So we keep proper identification of those through our system. But when we are handling those samples, each sample is tagged, labeled. We have note cards that we put on every single sample that goes into the oven, whether it's the raw aggregate, the binder sample, or the mix that we're putting together. Everything has a trackable ID on it so that we can keep track, as well as the replicate number. And then that all filters back to our quality, or our management system to handle those samples. So everything is ID'd that is in the lab whenever we're testing samples, and that ID tracks back to the project, and that way we're not losing samples throughout the process.
Okay. All right. Well, Zach, thank you very much. We're going to move on to Joseph. Now, Joseph's going to talk about DOT's perspective on quality assurance and compliance.
The big thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is kind of that second part as well, maintaining laboratory accreditation. It's kind of a chicken and egg kind of thing. We're told we have to do it, and we in turn end up telling private labs, you've got to do this. But in reality, nobody should be telling any of us to do this, because you get way more out of it than you put in. It's hands down the best thing that we have done over the years, is getting more involved with our accrediting body, in this case, AASHTO Resource and CCRL. We have learned so much, in everything that we get out of our accreditation, out of coming to discussions like this, just having a root cause analysis, going back and forth after an assessment. You learn so much from that. And that's what we should be. That's the mentality we should take from accreditation. We're not doing it because we've been told to. We're doing it because we're trying to make ourselves better. We are trying to get quality out of our program that in turn improves the quality of, at the end of the day, our infrastructure. Because that's why us DOTs are here, is to further the infrastructure of our country. And that's the reason why we rely on the independent labs, the contractors and the independent labs, all of y'all as well. So it's just that little sense of pride in the back that, yeah, I'm accredited and I'm doing it because I want to be better. With that,
Joseph, I got to stop
yeah.
you for a second. I appreciate you saying that. We get the same thing out of it. We get better at what we do by having interactions with the laboratories and finding out what experiences you guys have.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear that it's reciprocal.
Yeah. Yes. It was a big, it's a little bit of a culture change. That's something that's big around in TDOT right now. We have an initiative, a reorganization going through called EPIC, Empowering People, Influencing Culture. That's what myself and my boss, Mike Doran, tried to influence our culture is just, yeah, we're doing this to make ourselves better. It's that quality part, and quality is only determined by the customer. That's who gets to determine whether a product is quality or not, is the customer. It's not us doing the testing or us putting down the roadway. It's the people who end up driving on it every day. So,
any questions for Joseph?
I actually had a question. So this is going to be like a podcast.
Oh, you're going to steal all the good questions.
I'm going to steal all the good questions
Yeah.
if no one's typing it in. So I'm going to just go ahead and ask. But I was curious, Joseph, about how, like, if you can give an example of one of the ways you are trying to spread that quality mindset, and like you were talking about with accreditation of how like you want to do better. Is there do you have a specific example of things that you've been doing to that have worked in trying to spearhead that change and culture shift?
I think the big thing is to shift focus away from the idea, because the idea existed when I was working in a different lab when I was a technician, that every time ASHO Resource or CCRL came out, the assessors were here to find something. That was always the running mentality of all the technicians that had to go through that was, well, they're going to find something. Let's give them something to find or something like that. You know, they all had that mentality of they're out to get us. And that, if you can break that and turn that into they're not out to get you, they're out to make sure that to make you better. And you can bring that in-house too. If I'm walking around the laboratories, I'm not looking to get somebody in trouble. I'm looking to see where we're maybe not doing quite as well as we could be. And if we change something, then again, that's a going in the right direction. That's that quality mindset. And really, that's what I found to be the most useful thing that happened over the last decade, was breaking that mindset of somebody's always out to get me, or somebody's always out to get me in trouble. That is not what my position is, and that's not what accreditation's about. So,
Thanks, Joseph. Next, well, we are going to go to Kishore. So the last two panelists kind of are going to be approaching this laboratory management issue from different perspectives. So Kishore is very heavy on process controls. So he's going to talk to us about optimizing workflows and some of the things he's doing as a corporate quality manager and principal with ECS. Kishore?
Sure. Thank you, Brian, Kim, and my fellow panels and attendees. So again, operational efficiency is such a kind of broad term, right? The goal is, you're trying to maximize output while minimizing resources, which is such a loose definition. In our context, when we say maximizing output, there are the key quality objectives must be met, which is, as Joseph and Jack mentioned, the testing must be in strict adherence to the standards. Reports are complete in compliance with the reporting requirements. The internal policies and procedures are being met within your company. And ultimately, the goal is to deliver the reports, to the client in a timely manner as promised. So, every lab is unique. There is kind of no one size fits all type approach, because labs vary by, the geography, the size, the scale, the scope of service offerings. So in a general sense, there are a handful of factors that can be implemented to establish some efficiency. one is, again, as Brian mentioned, streamlining the workflows. What I mean by that is you're trying to standardize the processes. And by standardizing process, it can help reduce the errors and establish consistency across, let's say, for example, the sample management or the equipment management or the data processing, report management, all these systems, the process entails various steps. It has to happen in a sequential manner. Of the preceding step has to be, complete before you proceed to the next step. And one of the things, really helped is a little plugin for Astro Resources that ECS has been enrolled in Astro Resources corporate QMS program, which has been a great catalyst for us. And we've been participating in this for over 6 years. And that has been, like a top-down approach where we were able to establish policies and procedures because our company is growing and, there's a lot of offices throughout the whole country. By standardizing those processes, policies, and procedures, we were able to really, establish, again, consistency, which there is improvements, but we're not there yet. So some of the things what we try to do in our corporate QA team is to, to standardize templates for the reports, the equipment calibration forms, building systems to enhance the productivity. It has been a great help. We've been making some great progress. So if there are any firms out there, I strongly do encourage to participate in Astro Resources corporate QMS program.
Well, thank you so much, Kishore, for sharing your experience. And it was insightful despite what you think. Next, so we talked about operational efficiency. We're going to get into some of the personnel management here with Seth Winters. So Seth, please talk to us about leadership and staff development.
Absolutely. I'm the type, I'm going to go bullet by bullet, and that's how I like things organized. I don't free-range all over the place. I would say that in the beginning, it does come down to recruiting because you do need the staff to do the job, and you need the staff before you determine who is the quality staff. From recruiting for the lab, and I'm just going to say this from my experience, being in the lab, from all the other places I've worked, there is never more a melange of individual personality types, skill sets, and attitudes that vary so much, but come together for one specific goal, whether it's quality-based, which you hope it is, or strictly free market business-based. Either way, there's seldom two like personalities in a lab, is one thing I've noticed between this and auditing our other offices. I typically find that with recruiting, it's kind of a 3-tier type of approach. Direct recruiting by putting the job out there and seeing if you're going to cast a wide net to get someone in. The second one would be kind of gauging the skill sets of individuals we've hired for, say, something else, primarily field. And the third is just dumb luck. I have some guys working in my lab right now that were field guys, and for a number of situations and circumstances, they ended up being participants in the lab with me before I was their manager. We worked alongside, and I was fortunate and got lucky because each one of those individuals that came in from that aspect of it brought a very unique skill set into the lab that benefited the whole. So as it currently stands, I've got 3 full-time staff members. 2 of those were intakes from our field division due to circumstance. One was a direct recruit. We stole him as a QC manager from one of our primary suppliers. I'm not sure how they feel about us now, but it is what it is. It's all fair. So for me, recruiting, that is the big one. Is the methods of recruiting for the lab vary as much as the type of people you have in the lab. Just because it's not a one-size-fits-all in any way, shape, or form when it comes to lab operations. As far as training and skill development, what I first like to see anyone coming in that has no experience is starting them out on the basics, developing their acumen, their attention to detail, and then exposing them to greater and greater and greater things. I am of the opinion that regardless of your staff size, I would rather have 4 guys trained in everything, that redundancy, 2 is 1, 1 is none, than have 1 guy at the top with everything, 1 guy below, that's just a little less, and then 2 guys that have the bare minimum. Unfortunately for me, my guys, they're always eager to learn more and more and more. And developing that skill set isn't just about teaching newer and newer things. It's also identifying the skill sets they had before, like let's say they came from another lab or a producer or something in quality control. You see how they're doing things, and you either praise how they've been doing it, or you notice subtle intricacies in how they're doing it that might fall outside of what the test procedure should be, and not being afraid to speak up to that. For someone that has no experience whatsoever, it's developing their mindset and skill level while also eliminating their personal prejudices. I can personally say people I've worked with in the lab, they read documentations from, say, AASHTO, and my background is criminal justice, so I'm used to reading very long, detailed items, whereas other people look at things from AASHTO, CSERL, and things like that, and they end up having this mindset of, well, I don't understand this, or, well, I don't agree with this. But then it's, teaching them why it is so important. So that's one of those ones is every individual has a different need for training and skill set development. Again, nothing is uniform. Quality is the thing that's uniform at the end of the day. That is the one main goal. Got to branch out and be able to meet people on their individual skill sets as they are, and the best way to develop them.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate your time and attention to detail. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to AASHTO Resource Q&A. If you'd like to be a guest or just submit a question, send us an email at podcast@ashtoresource.org or call Brian at 240-436-4820. For other news and related content, check out AASHTO Resource's social media accounts or go to ashtoresource.org.